Witcher and Cyberpunk CEO addresses bogus claims CD Projekt Red is in dire trouble because it is too woke. Quotation marks. I do, incidentally, quite adore the fact that the mainstream media, who has been fully suffused in wokeist nonsense now for the last 10 plus years, are still adding in quotation marks there, as if like, oh, this wokeist stuff, we just don't understand. We don't know what that is. It's some sort of silly conspiracy thing, isn't it? Oh, those silly gamers are at it again. We have really no conceptualization of what woke means. I don't know about that. I think you've got a pretty goddamn good idea, seeing as it's the water in which you swim, but I do suppose water is invisible to the fish in the same way that lies may be to a journalist, as it is essentially as oxygen to them. But hey, details. This is referencing a bit of a kerfuffle that happened over on Twitter a few days ago between Michael Nowakowski, who's the CEO, or co-CEO I think, of The Witcher, and Endymion, who was on the ArchCast briefly just a couple of weeks ago actually. So he says, I talked to the Ubisoft insider about the current state of the industry as well as another source which tells me places like CD Projekt Red and even Funcom, which is making Dune Awakening, are in dire trouble, and yes, we are officially in a game crash. Now, I do think that is perhaps a bit of a strident sentiment, considering that we're probably still a little bit away from a full-blown crash, but we are certainly heading in that direction if things remain the same. And the CEO then responds, Seems we live in times where anyone can record complete nonsense and make a story about it. CD Projekt Red talent leaving, we have the lowest rotation of people in recent years. DEI-driven recruitment, we hire based on merit and talent alone. We'll get to that in a moment. Just as we make games driven by artistic vision alone. Why did we choose Unreal Engine? Because it enables us to work on our games more efficiently, and we remain cutting-edge tech-wise. The Witcher 3 Director left, yeah, more than 2 years ago. Now can we stop looking for conspiracy theories and go back to making cool stuff? I do feel as if the lady doth protest us a bit too much here, as here's the thing. I am not an expert on CD Projekt Red. I am only tangentially familiar with them, but I am very interested in this wider question here. The sort of pseudo idea of, is CD Projekt Red going woke? Probably yes, which we'll look into in a second. And will they in turn then go broke? Not necessarily. See, there are some complications there, especially when it comes to timelines, but I am very interested in the general idea of when do we declare something to be woke? What is our standard of evidence? When can we say, oh, this company is going woke, this company has already gone woke, this is a project that is woke, and this is a product that is woke, and so on? Because in many cases these days, it has become a bit too much of a buzzword you simply apply to things, or it has become something we simply assume based on rather tangential evidence. And this was entirely fine, frankly, when we were still the cultural underdogs. But as we are now rising to the position of cultural dominance, the cultural change that we have been working for now for about 10 odd years, many of these questions bear closer scrutiny. So let's begin with the first question. Is CD Projekt Red going woke? I mean, yes. It seems rather difficult to deny, honestly. CD Projekt Red deep dive approach to ESG, environmental social governance. Of course, that was 2 years ago now, and it got beat the shit up, shall we say. This was not a popular announcement, as ESG is of course a big part of DEI and wokeism in general, embracing the idea for social governance, and how social issues should govern industries and governmental issues. Furthermore, if we go to CD Projekt Red's own website and we go up to the Join Us segment, we've got, well, DEI right there. Diversity and inclusion. By now, we all know exactly what that means, but just in case you were wondering, you even of course got the full-on Pride Parade in the background. This is a political initiative caused by a political movement for political reasons. This has been very solidly established now over the course of the last 10 odd years. And it has also been proven again and again that it does not benefit a company financially. And so the usual nonsense reason that, a diverse and inclusive working environment boosts creativity and innovation is simply not true. If that was true, Disney would be doing a hell of a lot better. If that was true, Warner Brothers would be doing a lot better. Blizzard would be doing a lot better. Creative Assembly would be doing a lot better, etc., etc., etc. Creativity is not created by diversity. At least, well, not the diversity that you're thinking of. If you were aiming towards diversity of thought, maybe we'd get somewhere, but you are aiming towards diversity of genders and skin colors. And just in case we need to hammer this point yet further home, which I'd like to point back here too, DI-driven recruitment, we hire based on merit and talent alone, says Michael Nowacki, the CEO of CD Projekt Red. Whereas if we scroll down a little bit on the page here, what's this? Drzniczny Złogryzi. Polish. Girls in the Game, thank you. This is an initiative ran and funded by CD Projekt Red. We created a mentoring and scholarship program for high school girls, and non-binary ones, as I've seen the thing, to help them take the first step in the video games industry. So, I've looked into this previously, as I was considering doing a video on this in the grander scheme of things. I believe I've mentioned as well in the previous video, where a lot of companies are running initiatives that are exclusively for, well, not men, in essence. And this is one of them. There is an opening for non-binary people in here as well, but not men. If you want access to this resource, if you want access to the money that is associated with it, and the benefits of having direct connections within CD Projekt Red via a mentoring program, you must be born with the correct genitalia. And this is disturbingly common within the industry. Creative Assembly has a program like this, Blizzard has a program like this. This form of blatant sexism and discrimination is entirely commonplace within gaming. So when Michael Nowacki says that they are hiring basically only merit and talent alone, he is lying. We can prove that he is lying by looking at their own website, by looking at the things they themselves sponsor. There is simply no doubt about it. And as for whether or not CD Projekt Red is creating woke products, now this is a more difficult one, because for all the countless errors with Cyberpunk 2077, I would not go so far as to say that it is overtly woke, although some of the discourse around it has absolutely been. Remember when it was a bit of a blow-up thing that a couple of the romance options were gender-locked? Well, personally, I think that's a dumb thing. I believe that the character should simply be, main character sexual. Because if you as a male want to romance Judy, the objectively superior romance option, then why on God's good earth shouldn't you be allowed to? It's your role-playing game, for fuck's sake. But to fix this problem then, the modders made a mod for it. Well, the Nexus mod team took down the Romance Judy as a male mod. So now you've got to actually hack into the game or its consoles to get it to work, as apparently there is already romance options for both Judy with males and Panams with females in the game files. It was already in there, but it was removed for some reason. Now, why would you do that? That's just kind of weird. Now, the Nexus mod removed this, but of course, the Panam romance for female V is still up on Nexus mod. Now, granted, fair enough, this is not CD Projekt Red's fault. I would not go so far as to say that CD Projekt Red emailed Nexus mod or anything like that, because Nexus mod themselves are wokest tards. And the closest thing you've got to a male Judy romance mod now are save game files that will load the game after you've done the whole hacky intro thingy at the point where the romance concludes. That's the closest you get. As for more direct proof to CG Projekt Red, well, The Witcher 4 stars Geralt of Rivia, but not as the main characters. So Geralt, the main character of the Witcher series, has been replaced by someone, presumably Ciri. Does this make sense? From what little I know about the Witcher series, possibly. Is it still suspicious in the current day and age for a female character to supplant a male one? Oh boy, God, yes. Yes, it is, absolutely. Is this one shred of evidence that we could use to look at and go, that's looking a bit wokey? Absolutely. Is it conclusive proof? No. But again, this is where it gets interesting. CD Projekt Red hasn't actually released that many games recently, of course. They released Cyberpunk 2077 in 2020. Then they released an Android iOS Witcher Monster Slayer, and an upgrade or an expansion pack to Gwent, another iOS game, and then Phantom Liberty. That's about it. They haven't actually put out any other major games. Now, Phantom Liberty 2, I would not say was particularly woke either, but, you know. So they've got a bunch of stuff coming up. This is where the pudding is. This is where the proof in the pudding will be. We can't tell if CD Projekt Red has gone woke because the products that they were working on as they were going woke were already, well, pretty much finished, frankly, by the time they actually hit the market. And thus the damage that could have been inflicted upon them by wokeism would be relatively limited. This new crop of video games, however, oh, now we will be able to see. And I will also point out that The Witcher Remake has also, of course, announced that they will be removing the playing cards you get from seducing certain women in the game because it was objectifying the females. It was turning them into commodities, and we can't have that in the current year. That is yet another sign that, yeah, CD Projekt Red has probably gone woke. But even a woke company can, in theory, produce a good product. Is it rare? Oh, God, yes. Because 99% of the time, wokeism is literally a mental disease. It is created by people who believe that they have the God's honest absolute truth. And if you are the most righteous person in the world, obviously, you will try to enforce that righteousness upon others. They are proselytizers extraordinaire. Thus, they can very rarely, if ever, work on a project and coexist with other beings without attempting to convert them. Which is why pretty much everything they touch turned to shit. But again, the real evidence will be these games here. If they turn out with overt wokeism, then yes, CD Projekt Red will go broke. But this is a project that can take a very long time. Look at Disney. Disney has been drinking the Kool-Aid of wokeism for a very long time now, and they've only recently started to really feel the financial pinch, to the point that with Inside Out 2, they explicitly forbade any gay romance nonsense to be inserted into the movie, and they had executives looking over the shoulders of the people making it to make sure that as much gayness as humanly possible could be extracted from the project and thrown onto a pile to be burnt. And, surprise, surprise, it created an enormously successful product. The entertainment industry may be rather slow and dim-witted, but even it can learn with the appropriate application of stick. So, to return to the point here then, is it a woke company? Probably, yes. Has it gone so far as to be unsalvageable? We don't know yet. Is the industry as a whole unsalvageable? I don't think so. Parts of it? Oh, hell, absolutely. And some parts of it deserves to die as well, and it would be highly beneficial for all of us if it did. Or at the very least, for us to be a trimming down, shall we say. The comment about the Unreal Engine, for example. It enables us to work on our games more efficiently. This is almost surely absolutely true. If you can simply buy a ready-made engine with constant updates, all the graphic options you need, and it looks plenty pretty, pretty, then why not do it, of course? Well, the reason why we used to make our own engines back in the day is because companies often had a very specific thing in mind. Creative Assembly with Total War, for example, needed an engine capable of making Total War things. Hundreds, if not thousands of little soldiers running around the battlefield stabbing one another. They needed to get that to work, and so they needed to make a custom engine specifically designed to make that work. And they had both the competence and the sheer stick-with-itude to actually make that happen despite how hard it is. These days, however, well, most of the people coming out of the games design academies and so on, as this is a officially educated profession now, far more so than good old-fashioned passion projects, well, they probably worked with something like the Unreal Engine. It is simply easier to convert new hires into a software they already have. This is a commonly used tactic amongst many of the larger software producers, like Adobe, for example, to get in schools so as to convince the companies to adopt their products, because that way it'll be an easier conversion process from new employee to fully functional employee, fully functional hire. And it's also the simple fact that I do not believe that today's industry has the creative thinking and the technical skills required to create good engines anymore. Creative Assembly has been a fantastic example of that over the years. Back in the day, people would make the most ridiculous structures out of almost sheer passion because that is what they wanted to make, and they were denied an easier option. Therefore, they either had to, well, die or conquer, triumph or fail. Whereas now, you don't have that drive anymore. You don't have that necessity. Hardship breeds innovation, whereas ease breeds, of course, complacency. And the gaming industry has been a very complacent place for a very long time now. But yes, CD Projekt Red going broke? We'll have to wait and see. Is it likely? Yeah, it is. It is very likely. And the fact that CEOs feel the urge to defend themselves publicly from such accusations instead of simply laughing it off is also an interesting indicator of the times, and of the cope and seethe of the mainstream gaming industry. Oh, it's not in dire trouble because it's woke or anything, of course not. That's ludicrous. Whereas, of course, they have no further indication that that's not the case than we have of that it is the case. In fact, again, considering we've probably got the more realistic interpretation of current day events. Anywho, do let me know what you think in the comment section down below, as the whole discussion around when we can cry woke without being the boy who cried wolf one too many times is going to be a very interesting one, I think, in the long run. And I do definitely believe we're going to have a fair few children who will be eaten by their own desire to shout puppy. But, well, this is simply one of the problems we are going to have to solve as the right, quote-unquote, eventually begins to assume cultural dominance yet again, largely due to how badly the left has fumbled it. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.